familiar with the work of David Icke, you'll obviously be aware that, you know, he admits and believes that the royal family of England are shape-shifting, human sacrificing, blood-drinking reptilians, and I believe that too. As outrageous or ludicrous as it sounds, you know, pretty out there, but this is what's going on, people. The simple fact is, if you spend enough time going through all the information related to this topic, there's absolutely tons of it available in public domain. You will see for yourself that this is absolutely true. These guys have existed, and as you can see, if you start tracing, you start looking at artworks 500-600 years old, they have half human, half reptilian depicted people in these paintings. And you start looking at friezes and frescoes which come out of ancient Greece, which are in museums all over the world, and you'll find people being depicted as human top with snake legs. Chinese folklore and zodiac traditions both acknowledge the snakes as seducers and charmers throughout ancient history. There is equal fear and admiration. There is common precipitations about dragons of both light and dark, which is where the yin and yang symbols come from. In China, with reptilians and with dragons, they're everywhere. They form such a huge part of the culture, and they have followed through. I dare you to find a Chinese restaurant that does not have a dragon depiction in it. In fact, there's also a very famous story about a white snake. A quote from the adaptation of Madame Whitesnake, kept forever under Thunderbolt Peak Tower. And stage. Judging from the case of Empress Wu, how we know that this white snake is not a beautiful woman? Who is to say that the white snake can't change into a beautiful woman? Another quote from Lady Whitesnake, a tale from Chinese opera, retold by Aaron Shepard, states, "Animals may become human, a human may become God, just so a snake may become a woman." They exist in all ancient mythology. These beings seem to master water or come from the sea or from beneath the earth. They seem to be the creators of man, or at least our systems of control and government. They can change between human and dragon form. Some have the ability to fly, particularly the royalty. They are often depicted as half human, half serpent, to represent the fact that they can shift between two forms. Queen Elizabeth, Prince Charles, Prince Harry and Prince William are all the royal antecedents of the Angevin dynasty, whose dynasty included the Count Dracula, and whose offspring sat on the throne of England and who ruled the illegally captured city of Jerusalem. The Angevins, also known as the House of Anjou, were a noble family found in the early years of the Carolingian dynasty. They first emerged as part of the minor feudal nobility in what was soon to be known as the Kingdom of France during the 10th century. After Henry III, who became Geoffrey of Plantagenet, Count of Anjou inherited Anjou from his mother in 1060, and the family grew in prominence, soon acquiring Maine. After going on a crusade and becoming close to the Knights Templar, the Kingdom of Jerusalem was handed over to the Angevins by the marriage of Fulk of Jerusalem in 1131. The senior line of the family branched off to become the House of Plantagenet, assuming the nickname of Geoffrey V of Anjou, who was known as Geoffrey Plantagenet. Its founder eventually going on to rule the Kingdom of England, the Lordship of Ireland, the Principality of Wales, and various other holdings in the vast Angevin Empire in 1154. A historically accurate story goes that one of the Counts of Anjou, Raymond of Poitou, returned from the Crusades with a new wife named Melusine. She became the queen of the Angevins, and her servants claimed her legs were scaly like a lizard. Rumors spread throughout Europe that Queen Melusine, who had acquired a reputation for being unspeakably evil, was in fact a black magician with what appeared to be magical powers. Queen Melusine became known as the Devil's Daughter and seeded the cruel Angevin dynasty that ruled Europe, and were particularly fond of public executions, torture, public stakings and drinking blood. In folklore, Melusine was the name of a water fairy who was cursed to become a serpent from the waist down every Saturday. According to the legend, Raymond, the son of Count of Poitou, found Melusine in a forest and fell in love with her and asked her to marry him. She said yes on the condition that he would never enter her room on a Saturday. Raymond agreed. They lived together in a great palace, and she bore him several children, each one with a peculiar deformity, including peculiar ears, fur, claw, red eyes, and other disfigurements, but each child grew up to be a great hero and warrior. After many years, gossip began to spread about Melusine's weekly seclusion, and Raymond was prodded into taking a peek into her private room, where he saw her in a bathtub in a semi-transfigured form, bearing the tail of a serpent for legs. As soon as she became aware, or so the legend goes, that her husband had what her husband had done by spying on her, Melusine became so angry that she completely transformed into a full dragon and flew out the window and was gone. The legend goes that she is still said to appear hovering above the castles as an omen of death for one of her descendants. There are so many myths and folklores that sprang from Queen Melusine. It's surprising that she's never been brought up by any of the other mainstream researchers in this area, because this is where we can really probably track a queen who existed who was said to be a reptilian in history. Queen Melusine is the best example I've found so far of how historical facts have been diluted, reinterpreted and rewritten to become semi-dismissive folklore or legend. Melusine's image has been reinterpreted in so many different ways. The most common theme is that Melusine always depicted in a bath in private. The story goes that when Melusine came into contact with water, she takes on wings and a tail, or scaly fish-like legs. Either way, she's not completely human, and this has been historically documented. In 1410, there appeared an interesting storybook that now exists in the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, which is this library keeps many ancient manuscripts, and it contains one in particular of interest, which is a series of 16 paintings by Gilbert de Metz, making up a French storybook called Le Roman de Melusine, which basically means the Roman Melusine. And this was obviously painted in the 15th century, and Queen Melusine was thought of as being of Roman origin. And this is a very important point to note, of course, because I keep having to make this link between the reptilians and the Roman Catholic Church, because it's one that's never made with any other reptilian information, although it's there in your face. Melusine has spawned a multitude of myths and legends of fairies and elven folk. According to Wikipedia, Melusine is a figure of European legend and folklore, a feminine spirit of fresh water in sacred rivers. She is usually depicted as a woman who is a serpent or fish from the waist down, much like a mermaid. Now, the other interesting thing to notice about Melusine is that in heraldry she is depicted as double-tailed, often holding up each tail in one of her hands. So she's holding up each one of her mermaid tails in the hands, and the split tail being held up is actually the depiction of the Starbucks logo. So check it out next time you look at the Starbucks logo. That is Queen Melusine.